decided to climb the tallest mountain in Africa. When I saw the peak of Kilimanjaro through the window of an airplane, I was shocked at how close the top of the mountain was to the airplane. This is the tallest mountain in Africa at 19,341 feet, called Mount Kilimanjaro. And about half of the people that attempt to climb it actually make it to the top. Now, the main reason why it's so hard to actually climb this mountain and make it to the top is not because of the terrain, but it's actually because there's only 50% of the available oxygen at the peak that there is down at the bottom. This presents a very dangerous situation with possible altitude sickness that can lead to very serious conditions such as having fluid on your lungs called pulmonary edema, or even worse, cerebral edema, which is swelling of the brain. Now this all sounds really scary, and trust me, I was really scared because I've never climbed anything this high before. Like, I've never been at altitude for that long, and I really didn't know how my body would react. So for this reason, I wanted to choose a adventure climbing company that had the most experience, that would have the highest chance of success to actually make it to the top, but also was the most safe. So I went with a company called Climb Kili. They have a 99% success rate with the route that they choose and their methodology, so this really felt like a no-brainer. So here's how we actually got to the top of the tallest mountain in Africa. The first step was to decide on a route. We chose one of the longest routes called the 7-day Machame route, which is spread across a full week and gives you a really long runway to acclimatize, which is one of the best ways to combat altitude sickness. Altitude sickness is a term for a medical condition when you go to a higher altitude too quickly. For acute mountain sickness, the symptoms are nausea, headache, loss of appetite, and trouble sleeping. The more serious symptoms can be fluid on the lungs and swelling of the brain, both of which can be fatal. As your body is subject to higher altitudes, the air pressure decreases. As the pressure decreases, the amount of oxygen diffusing across your lungs also decreases. Your body then goes into this cascade of changes trying to combat this decrease in pressure. The first one is decreasing the blood volume to increase the amount of red blood cells in circulation. The effect of this is peeing a lot. Over time, your body will increase red blood cells while increasing heart rate and breaths per minute in the short term. Not medical advice, I am not a doctor, but one of the best ways to combat altitude sickness is taking a drug called Diamox. So I asked my good friend Beau Parfait, who literally climbed Mount Everest, if I should take Diamox, and he said, quote, "It's a must." But more on my journey with Diamox later in this video. Step 1 on climbing Mount Kilimanjaro is getting to Tanzania. I flew from LAX to Frankfurt, then to Nairobi, the capital of Kenya. I spent 2 nights in Kenya to adjust to the time zone, then took a short flight to Kilimanjaro Airport to meet up with the rest of my friend group in the small town of Arusha at the base of the mountain. I initially thought Arusha was gonna be like a small village, but it's actually a really big city that has a population of 2 million people. The next morning, we took a shuttle to the base of the mountain and began our climbing experience at the Machame Gate. Here we had lunch, registered with our tour guide, and began the first day. Day 1, Machame Gate to Machame Camp. This probably should have been the easiest of all the days, by far. We're the lowest elevation, we have the most amount of oxygen, it's not even really like a steep hike, the weather is actually really nice, but I made a huge mistake. In efforts to offset any altitude sickness at all, again, because I've never been at altitude, I took Diamox the night before. But Diamox makes you pee.
So far, so good. Diamox is working out. I've pissed 900 times.
So literally, from 9 p.m. till 5 a.m., I got up and peed every 30 minutes. I didn't sleep the whole first night, none. I recall the whole night. So when I actually got on the mountain, I felt as if I was hungover because I just did not sleep. So do not take Diamox on the first day. This made hiking the first day incredibly painful. And about 2 miles in, I truly thought I might have to just scrap the whole climb. Day 1. However, since I'm an Uber planner, I did think this through, and I did have a saving grace. I did quite a bit of research from other YouTube videos and packed these little hydration packs to put in my water. This saved me. I was struggling so hard day 1 that I literally cannot remember the amazing, beautiful rainforest all around me. I was just ultra focused on making sure that I did not fold day 1. So on the first day, we climbed a total of 7 hours and we got to an altitude of 9,350 feet. So after setting up camp, of which the porters do, we got kind of the rundown on camp dynamics and kind of like what the next 7 days would be like, and we started to prepare for dinner. Day 1 was so hard. Now, by the way, guys, I've ran a marathon. I was so exhausted. I was actually in my sleeping bag, ready for sleep before the sun was even going down day 1. It was treacherous.
All right, so I'm in my tent. And the first day, I think what's gonna happen is I'm not gonna take Diamox in the evening again. And I'm gonna drink only electrolytes so that overnight, my body can really heal and take on more water, because there's 6 more days. Also, it's gonna get really cold tomorrow. Like, really cold at night, like 15 degrees. All right, so it's day 2, we're at breakfast.
Breakfast, baby.
How'd you guys sleep?
Little coffee, it was a little cold. We slept on a hill.
I woke up 4 times to piss.
Diamox, baby! All right, so here we go. We have camp. You see the top of Kili in the distance. Day 1.
Day 1. Day 2.
Day 2, man.
No, I'm optimistic. It's day 1. All right, day 2. How'd you sleep, Jake?
I slept pretty well. Sliding down the hill though, but I was warm.
We've noticed that there's frost on the ground. Day 2 starts off cold. Now, I was kind of thinking Tanzania is near the equator, and then I am thinking of these images of the Serengeti, so I assumed it was kind of like warm everywhere, which is true, except for when you're at 10,000 feet. Also, July is technically the winter here, so seeing frost on the ground is actually quite normal for this time of year. The climbing portion of day 2 was definitely steeper and colder, but it was way more dynamic. It just was like neater to look at. It wasn't just like all straight jungle and moss. This is when you kind of get like above the foliage, and so you can actually like see all of the mountain around you. I had tremendously terrible stomach issues day 2. It was pretty intense. But I did sleep so good night 2.
So you had stomach issues and you slept?
Yeah, because like,
You just shitting yourself?
no,
while you're
I like
sleeping?
everything out before bed. By midway through the day, we started to get above the clouds and we could finally see the top of Kilimanjaro, which felt really far away, but still doable for now. One thing to mention is that we had 3 porters for every 1 person, and having a guide and porters is technically required from the park service. So because there are people working the mountain the same time that we are here for fun, it is customary to let all of the porters pass you when on the trail.
Hell yeah, Jumbo, bro.
Getting to Shira Camp meant day 2 was coming to an end, and the new environment felt kind of more like a California high desert. Spirits were definitely getting higher now because I think the confidence was really building within the group. We were all adjusting well to the altitude and becoming more assured that we could handle this extreme vertical change. All right, guys, so we're now Camp 2, day 2. The hike was much easier. It was probably harder actually, but I had such a hard time the first day. Amazing view at our camp. You can actually see the summit of Kilimanjaro behind us. It is massive. It looks really far away. Man, these tents are awesome. I actually have 2 different pads here. So I have just the regular pad and then I paid for this blow up one. These are super warm sleeping bags. And I actually brought all my pillows. Guarantees good night's sleep. And I brought my own food too. Highly recommended for anyone who has any kind of digestive issue. And then we have plenty of water. I think I overpacked on shirts and underwear, just like don't need that. I'm super stoked that I brought these Asics.
I absolutely love these. They're super warm, they're super comfortable. So like A6 for the win. And we're just gonna be hanging out today.
Yeah. So first of all, I'd like you to meet Paul, the guide. He'll be with you.
Hello.
Paul.
Julius.
Amedeus.
Tony Blair.
Rush, thank you guys.
Rob, much appreciated.
Nick.
The rest of the day was dedicated to just hanging out, absorbing in all the amazing scenery, getting used to being on the mountain a little bit more, and looking at this really cool bird called a white-necked raven. Day 3 is the big one. This is the one that you see if you can actually handle altitude or not.
Morning, day 2. Today we have this really, really long hike. Today's a real test if your body can handle altitude. I've been taking Diamox, but I slept amazing. So 9 full hours and no digestive issues at all whatsoever throughout the whole night. So I'm feeling pretty good. Morning, day 2.
Day 2, baby. Let's do it.
Rob, how you feeling?
Never better.
Day 3 today. Come on, dude.
Altitude's affecting none of us. It is definitely day 3.
Starting the day off, we can see Uhuru Peak, and it is definitely inspiring. It's also much colder today, and it feels actually like freezing before the sun hits your skin. The trek is not as steep, but will be much longer. However, the scenery is just so amazing that it motivates you to keep going.
How do you think you're gonna handle 15,000 feet, Miguel?
We'll see when we get there.
This guy's done 52 peaks, actually probably more like 60, so.
Closer to 60.
Closer to 60. So I feel like he knows what he's doing. How do you feel, Jake?
I feel great, actually. I think I got my best sleep last night.
Off in the distance, we can see Shira Ridge, which looks like we're kind of in an action movie. And honestly, if this is a simulation, then the programmers spent like a ton of time on this level.
So we're kind of like in an arid desert now. It weirdly feels very comfortable, mostly because being in Southern California all the time, this is what I'm used to with hikes. We are definitely above the clouds, getting up to about 13,000 feet. It's nice up here. Hey, how you guys doing? Hey, we can see the top pretty clearly now.
As the day goes on, we can really see how far we've come, but also how far we have to go. With full energy, finally, from adjusting to the mountain, we can see the lava tower in the distance. This is also where we're gonna be having lunch and acclimatize for 2 hours at 15,000 feet. This was the big test, and so far it seems like everyone is passing, but passing pretty nervously.
All right, guys, so we are at 15,000 feet. We're gonna eat some lunch here. We're gonna use that time to acclimatize. Top is right there, which looks really far away. But so far, so good. All right, dude, we made it. So far, no one's thrown up.
Why are you pointing at me? I haven't thrown up.
Well, that's what I was confirming.
My observation is that at 15,000 feet, the air is certainly more dry, and we can all feel something is like not right, but we're also not in the danger zone yet. So from here, we go back down to 13,000 feet at Barranco Camp, hiking through the Alpine Desert. Now, the Alpine Desert is really cool because it's this climate zone that has this really unique thing called a giant groundsel tree, which is technically just a giant weed. For reference, here is what a common groundsel looks like. Ending the 7-hour hike at Barranca Camp, everyone started gaining a really good perspective on just how massive this mountain really is. The elevation is starting to creep into everyone's mind, and a lot of us are considering, are we adjusting quick enough to actually handle this low oxygen?
All right, so I want to explain the tent dynamics. So we have our sleeping bag here. I brought all 3 pillows. This is supposed to be a 2-person tent, but we all decided to pay extra so that it'd just be a 1-person tent. Because all of your hiking stuff goes on this side. Shoes go here, because you kind of go in and out throughout the night. I've just decided to take all my clothes out every night so I can stuff them back in this bag. And then this is my day pack. Day 4, the mountain is behind me. That's the peak right there. It's ginormous. Today we're gonna be climbing this right behind us, called the Barranca Wall. All right, so this is kind of the morning ritual. Everyone comes out here and they put all of their gear that the porters are gonna carry. That all goes on kind of like the green tarp here. Then everyone takes their day pack, which is significantly smaller. And then here's our rock star crew over here, who does pretty much all the work as far as taking this up that. How you feeling, bro?
I'm feeling like $100.
This is a super short day of hiking, but we face the Barranca Wall, which is kind of like straight up, and it is by far the most challenging portion, technically speaking, of the whole hike. This is an area where we have to put the poles down so that we can really focus on using all fours to scale the rock face.
Pull it, one step at a time, guys.
Halfway there, guys.
Halfway from the last 4 steps.
Crumbling down.
That's right.
I am one with the mountain.
You are the mountain.
Climb! Climb!
All right, so we're almost to the top of the Barranca Wall. The first part was by far the most fun, most intense. It's kind of mellowing out now. Doing good?
Good. Oh,
I'm killing, hell yeah. We're incredibly above the clouds now. You know what? Why don't you just stand there and I'll tell them this is the top. Dude, you did it, bro! You did it! Hell yeah, bro. Hell yeah.
Climb!
1, 2, 3, jump.
Dude, this looks awesome. Hell yeah, Jumbo, bro. All right, so we've made it to the last camp before Kosovo. Tonight is the most important night to get really good sleep, to really prepare for summit day. All is well. Health-wise, I feel like I've just been getting so much more used to being on the mountain. All things are going really well leading up to the final push to get to Kosovo. Kosovo finally up to the summit.
Climb!
During the day, spirits were high, and I felt good about being on the mountain for 4 days. However, as the day went on, I noticed that the effects of altitude started to become very real. By day's end, I was having severe digestive issues, and my blood oxygen level was the lowest out of everybody at the camp. This created a whirlwind of doubt if I was taking enough Diamox and if my body could actually handle the altitude or not. However, the sheer beauty of the setting of Karanga Camp seemed to overshadow pretty much any immediate problem. The hike from this point already felt like a big giant win, and the view, it was just like absolutely stunning.
All right, guys, day 5. Today's like kind of like the real big day, I would say, because we're going from 13,800 up to 16,000 feet. We're gonna hang out for about 10 hours. We're gonna try to sleep for at least 5 of those. And then from there, 16,000 up to 19 at midnight. It's gonna be a real test of the altitude. I think today's just gonna be awesome. It's not raining, it's not too cold, it's not too hot. It's kind of perfect, actually. We're starting the ascent, 13,800. Squad's behind me. How you doing, Rob?
Hey, feeling like $1,000 today, Nick.
Woo! The view waking up on day 5 is like absolutely spectacular. But this whole thing is just like a giant experiment because nobody really knows how their body will handle the further and further that we go up. So the less and less oxygen, the less and less pressure, nobody really knows. And so it's like really beautiful, but then you're kind of nervous the whole time that you're like, I hope I make it. Getting my head back in the game, I squashed those fears and aligned with enjoying the journey to the next camp. Also, side note, the pace of climbing really slowed down at the higher altitude. Climbing quickly resulted in a racing heart and being out of breath that seemed almost impossible to recover from. The result was pole pole.
Pole, pole.
Pole pole.
Pole, pole.
The saying most echoed on the mountain, which is Swahili for slow, slow.
Heading to Kilimanjaro, here we come.
We are going pole pole, which means slow, slow, and it is slow, slow. How you doing, man?
Doing great, man. Feeling good. Day 5.
We are on the way, and we are going to summit tomorrow morning.
You know, it actually feels close now.
It does. It finally feels closer. It finally feels like we're finally making progress on that thing.
All right, so we're almost to 15,000 feet. We're in a part of the mountain that is incredibly dry. It pretty much looks like Mars. There's very little vegetation. It's incredibly desert-like. Wow, I mean, you can really see the glacier up there now. One of the strategies for a better chance to summit planned out by Climb Kili is to pay a little extra to stay at Camp Kosovo. The camp is just above Camp Barafu, and the idea here is to lessen the burden on the summit day and allow extra acclimatization at 16,000 feet. What's up, brother? Hiking past Barafu, I can certainly say I am grateful that we did this during the full light of day and not at midnight with a headlamp on. The altitude is now starting to set in. Going at a crawling pace. I mean, look, I'm gonna show you my feet. That's literally the pace that we've been going the last 3 hours.
Getting to camp, we were once again met with a celebration.
Most welcome, 16,000 feet. Here we are at Kosovo, guys. We got a few kilometers to go to Huru Peak, 19,341 feet. You guys ready for that?
Yeah! All has been well so far. The chicken stew was my favorite for dinner. I was like super happy about that, but literally my worst fear is starting to come true. My blood oxygen level is now at 75%, of which it has to be 70% in order to continue on. I was literally praying for my body just to like do its thing, because what I did not want to do was have to actually turn around and go down the mountain after 5 days of climbing, and have to turn around and just go all the way down in defeat.
All right, guys, so it's just after 11, and everyone's waking up right now. We're gonna get some food in the mess hall, and then we're gonna start making our way up the mountain to summit. All right, it's midnight. We're having breakfast. Some people slept, others didn't. And it's windy as
No sleep. So cold. Glad that we decided to stay up on this camp because we got 2 hours plus to hike, but it's a cold one. It was windy last night.
6 hours to the summit, about 3 miles. But yeah, pole up to the mountain peak.
Okay, so it's just before midnight and the temperature is below freezing and the wind has started to pick up. I am literally wearing everything I have. This includes running pants, hiking pants, windproof rain pants, wool socks, a t-shirt, long sleeve, 2 North Face jackets, a Columbia jacket, a windproof rain jacket, and I'm also wearing running gloves with winter gloves and a Columbia hat. Basically, full-on Arctic wear. As we started to ascend, I was really optimistic. I was thinking to myself, eventually, the wind will die down. And I was so wrong.
All right, guys, we're an hour in. Definitely feel the altitude. It's windy as How you doing, Jake?
Fantastic. Feeling good.
Hell yeah.
Ready to roll.
How you doing, Robbie?
Wonderful.
Casey?
The pace at this elevation is a crawl. It's so slow, it feels like I can't get warm. But then when I try to go faster, I'm so winded and my heart races so quickly that I can't get it to go back to normal. About 2 hours in, it is still pitch black. You cannot see the summit, and you cannot see where you just came from.
20 degrees up here.
I will admit, this was the only time on the mountain that I actually panicked. I was like starting to get pretty close to being certain that like this was just too much. Exactly at 5 a.m., we got our first big break. We reached Stella Point, which isn't quite the top, but it's so close that this like invigorates the spirit of the hike. We also stopped here for a caffeine break, and I put down 2 cups of really hot tea, which was exactly what I and everyone else needed desperately at this point in time.
Hell yeah! 18
Got a good guide.
Just one more hour to go. And at 5:37 a.m., we saw the very beginning of the daybreak, which would mean that the top is even closer as we time to get to Uhuru Peak right as the sun would be coming up.
Reaching the crater rim seemed to give everybody energy that was so tucked away that like nobody even knew that it existed.
Yeah, man, we got this.
I don't know me, son.
It was 20 degrees Fahrenheit, 30 mile per hour winds, but for the first time, we could physically see the summit of the mountain.
Nice.
Up ahead, there is a horde of people, lights, cheering, and excitement. It feels like walking up on this outdoor party that you're late for. Now, somewhat in disbelief, with lingering confusion and lots of joy, we wait our turn to take a photo at the top, which feels a lot like taking a photo with Santa Claus. Now, the wind is still going super hard, but literally no one cares, and we're really safe in our multiple layers, and deep down inside in our own heads, we are truly ecstatic.
How do you feel?
Incredible. Really grateful.
It's an emotional experience when you want to quit, but you can't because you know that your friends are pushing you and they've been with you every step of the way.
I'm so glad we did this.
Hell yeah, bro. How do you feel, brother?
Yeah, man.
I feel great, man. Just running out of breath, but I feel great.
The sensation feels a lot like it's your birthday and all of your best friends show up at your celebration. And while I'm a science guy and I'm all like super focused on like the analytical and the why and with the chemicals and like why is this actually happening, I will say this is a time in which I really couldn't explain, but I felt as if all of the fear of the diamox and the stomach pains and the altitude, it just all kind of like melted away, and it was totally replaced with this really solid and almost euphoric sense of achievement. And I'm pretty sure that everyone kind of shared this exact emotion, and while I swear it was just the wind in my eyes, I did record exactly how I felt at the top.
All right, guys, we did it. We made it to the top of the tallest point of Africa. It is incredible up here. It's like a whole different planet. I mean, you're on the edge of this old volcano. There's glaciers. You're above the clouds. You're above everything. And the work that it requires to get here, to see this, it is the journey. It's the journey. It really was. So right around the time that you finally understand you've made it to the top, the guides start to usher you right off the top, which I learned later was actually because it's really dangerous to stay too long. Your body has acclimatized to lower altitudes, but nothing at 19,000 feet. So while it's okay to stay for photos and some reflection, you have to move on really quickly.
And this takes us to the next chapter, going back down the mountain.
Which from the top back down to Kosovo camp felt like downhill moonwalking, as the dusty scree was incredibly forgiving when stomping down on. I think this was actually my favorite part of the hike because the sensation was really active and fun, and you were like moving around a bunch, and the scenery was just like ridiculously good.
Getting back to Kosovo camp now feels like the last day of school.
The exams are over, and it's all just kind of fun from here on out.
Guys, I just got back to my tent, and I'm not gonna lie, I am wiped out.
We briefly rest, pack up, and start to head down to more oxygenated terrain.
From here, all the way to the very last camp, I literally ran down the mountain.
I actually found it a lot easier on my knees to not resist gravity, but rather let it work for me. I was also probably getting super high on the extra oxygen and felt so jubilant that I didn't even really care that my big toenails were getting smashed in my boot.
It's so much easier on your legs to just kind of bounce around.
The last night at camp, everyone was internally super excited, but also completely drained. We did just summit the tallest peak in Africa starting at 11 p.m., and it was now 5 p.m. the next day, so going to sleep was incredibly easy because we had such a huge mental win tucked in our psyche, as well as an extreme workout under our belt.
So I made it down to the last campsite for the night.
Dinner's around 4:35. I'm just so thankful. This was such an incredible, amazing experience. All right, so we're leaving Mweka camp. Everyone is well oxygenated, and that recovery night is well worth it.
Waking up the next morning felt awesome. We all slept a solid 9 hours, but also because I suspended taking Diamox, I actually didn't have to get up to pee at all, so it was like super rejuvenating.
And due to spending a week at 13,000 feet, the lower elevation felt like a direct injection of energy. I mean, it's like, I feel like I could just run a marathon right now. Like, oxygen, we need that.
For this reason, I literally ran down the rest of the way, all the way to Mweka Gate. Also, this time around, I actually got time to really look at the jungle, as I wasn't mentally battling dehydration and the fear of not making it to the top. Also, day 7 was like super easy on the hamstrings, but really hard on the quads, and even harder on my toenails.
Oh my God, we did it. We're back. It's raining, it's beautiful, everyone's super stoked. There's a lot of oxygen.
Once we arrived at the gate, we had a short checkout process, and then we drove to a local restaurant. It was here we celebrated with the Climb Kili crew. Received our certificates verifying our summit, and this is also where we tipped the crew extremely handsomely. Now, having climbed the tallest mountain in Africa, I can definitely tell you that it is way more of a team sport than an individual one. The porters, the guides, and your friends, that whole cohesive unit. One of my key takeaways is kind of this old adage. It truly is all about the journey. Consider this. We spent, roughly speaking, 7 days on the mountain, and we spent 20 minutes at the peak. So it really is about enjoying the journey. The journey is where the joy is. Big shout out to Climb Kili for making this whole thing possible. I'm putting a link in the bio. If you're ever planning on climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, Climb Kili is the company to do it with.